Annoyances that make mommy angry. Ephesians chapter 4, verses 31 and 32. Great faith that sees God's face shining upon you, despite all the messiness still within you. Numbers chapter 6, verse 25. In other words, faith that believes what God says and behaves accordingly. Since faith comes from hearing the message, Romans chapter 10, verse 17. You would expect message hearers like us to have faith like this. You got faith that great? So, what happened? Why didn't the word you heard seem to work? Why didn't "it is finished" finish your feelings of not being good enough for God? Why didn't Christ's "look at the birds" sermon keep you from looking at all the imaginary what-ifs you worry about? Why didn't the sermon series on spiritual priorities reprioritize your schedule to seek God first? Why does your spiritual maturity seem stuck in puberty? If your answer is, because I am a sinner living in this demonically deceived world, I would agree with everything except your logic. You are indeed a sinner who daily fights against your sinful nature. Galatians chapter 5, verse 17. And you are, lamentably, still in this world that tempts you in 10 ways every 2 minutes. 1 John chapter 2, verse 16. And the devil is still good at his job, lying with such subtlety that sin seems good in the moment. John chapter 8, verse 44. But look back at your answer. Your "because" lacks biblical logic, since it would disqualify any sinner from having great faith. But some Christians truly do have a more mature faith than others, proven by their ability to go through the same situations that we do, yet respond in different ways. They battle the same flesh, live in the same world, and go to war against the same Satan, yet the outcome of their battles is notably different. Not perfect, but different. I notice this difference all the time. Why was I the only person in the meeting who got defensive and made an honest discussion of an idea so unnecessarily awkward? Apparently, everyone else in the room found another path to take, while I, prone as I am to wander, wandered away from humility and love. Why, on the soccer field, does my heart want me to be the best player instead of the best example of Christian love? Most of my teammates seem to handle defeat much better than I do, while I pout on the drive home and the morning after send an apologetic email for my sour attitude. Again. Given my 1. occupation and 2. spiritual habits, you would assume I would be much better at these basic commandments. If I spent as much time with a guitar as I do with God, I would be a Gen X Jimi Hendrix. I read my Bible in the morning, podcast sermons while I shave, sing praises to Jesus while I drive to work, spend my entire workday with the scriptures nearby. Pastoral perk. Drive home with more podcasts, do a devotion with my family after dinner, and read Christian nonfiction until I turn out the lights. Imagine if I spent an equal amount of time doing anything else. Block out that same time at the gym, and I would soon crush my current pull-up record. 1. If I immersed myself in an equivalent amount of Spanish, I would impress native speakers with my knowledge of the word for pull-up. La dominada. I had to Google that one, since I'm not great at Spanish or pull-ups. You get my point. On paper, I should be great at this Jesus thing. But great isn't a great word to describe my less than flattering faith. Am I just being too hard on myself? Is my faith actually growing, but in slow, steady, hard-to-see ways? Or am I right to think that, after all those church services and all those quiet times, I should have a lot more spiritual fruit by now? Do you ever feel this way? If so, There is some news you need to hear.